Pretty soon I'm gonna be getting back on this project. Pretty heavy. As of right now, I've got some other stuff I need to take care of. I've got to put a timing belt, water pump on my daily driver 2000 Subaru Impreza. Today I'm gonna go through and show y'all step by step how to put a timing belt and a water pump on a Subaru. This is gonna be any single overhead cam Subaru from 1990 all the way up to 2015. Whatever has a single overhead cam with a timing belt. There's going to be a couple different steps, but overall it's going to be exactly the same process for anything with a single overhead cam, 2.2, 2.5. That's what we're going to do today. I've got to get this knocked out so I can get this Jeep pulled back over here and get started back on it. First thing I got to do this morning though, I got to wash my little truck. She's a little dirty. I'm going to set this thing up on a time lapse. I'm going to get this truck washed. Guys, if you're only here for the timing belt and you couldn't care less about me washing this truck, skip ahead in the video. I'm gonna put a timestamp on the screen right now where you need to skip to go to the timing belt repair. Man, that is one nice looking little S10. I painted this thing last year in May. Didn't get any footage of it from my previous channel, Hillbilly Hard. Didn't have time to get the footage. I mean, this is the first paint job I've ever done, and I wanted to make it look good. Wanted to do a good job on it. And it took me 12 whole days of nothing but work. And I didn't have any way to get the camera footage of this truck. There was just no way it was going to happen. It was so much work, and for me just to get it done was a miracle. So don't have any footage of me painting the truck, but I got witnesses. I painted it myself right here in this driveway, and it ain't perfect, but man, it's pretty daggone good. If I took something to a body shop and paid $2,500, $3,000 to get it painted, I would expect it to look a little bit better than this paint job, but not a lot better. So pretty daggone happy with it. I got it cleaned up. I'm gonna get it down here out from under these trees so the trees will stop dropping junk on it. And I'm gonna get this Subaru up here and we're gonna put a timing belt on it. Sneak peek of another vehicle that's going to be on my channel soon. You guys hit subscribe, hit that like button. We're going to be painting this baby. We're going to be doing some stuff to it. Thanks for watching. Let's get to this timing belt job. All right, guys, got the Subi up here. Been driving this car since 2017. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about it. We're going to get started on this. I want y'all to see how to do this timing belt. It's really easy in comparison to Hondas and other vehicles that I've done. These things are a breeze. Now I'm going to show you step by step how to take care of it, how to do it right, so you can replace the timing belt on your Subaru and keep it maintained properly. All right, guys, one of the first things I like to do on any big project that I start to undertake is I like to get all my tools and stuff out and arranged to where I can get to them. I'm going to be using a lot of these sockets. I'm going to put them on the end of the table closest to the car. And I'm going to get some stuff that I know I'm going to need, and I'm just going to lay it out and get it ready. Now, everybody that's watching this video is not going to have the same tool set that I have. I was an automotive technician for over, or right around 20 years, I bought a lot of tools. Spent a lot of money on a lot of tools. I have a little bit of an advantage over most folks because I have already bought a ton of tools. They're not all expensive snap-on tools. Some of them are. Some of them are just stuff I got from Harbor Freight. But I do have quite a bit of tools. If you don't have a lot of tools, that's fine. You can still do this job with regular hand tools. There's just going to be a couple steps in here that's going to be a little bit more difficult for you if you don't have stuff like this. This is a stubby 1/2-inch impact gun, air powered. You can use a cordless one. This is to get the crank bolt out. Sometimes this thing won't take it out and you got to go back to the manual method, but we're going to try to see if it'll take it out. But I'm going to lay all my stuff out here where I can see it when I need it. Again, stuff like this right here is very nice to have, but not a necessity. It just might take you a little longer if you don't have cordless power tools to use to do the job. Get a couple sets of pliers out, and then we're going to get on, start working on this thing. I'm going to show you this real quick, guys. This book right here, when I bought my car in 2017, I started this book. I had 127,000 miles when I got it. I paid $200 for the car, and you can see it needed head gaskets, spark plugs, wires, valve jobs, everything. Did it all. At around 130,000, I put a timing belt on it, and it needed to be replaced at 200,000. Somewhere in here, at 193,000 miles, my clutch rod broke. I had to take the engine out. I replaced the clutch rod and pivot pin assembly, the clutch rod dust boot, the clutch cable, resealed the driver's side of the engine, valve cover, cylinder head, etc. New oil, replaced the timing belt with a Napa timing belt, part number 250304. I did not replace the pulleys at that time. So the pulleys have about 150,000 miles on them. That's a lot. I wouldn't recommend doing that. But when I put the new belt on at 194, I wrote down 250,000 for the next interval. I did this on 11/18/2021. I wrote down 250,000. The car has 263,000. So the belt should be good, but I'm really pushing those pulleys as far as they'll go. That's what normally happens on a Subaru. The pulleys lock up, and then it breaks the belt, and then you bend all your valves. So it's 100% due. I've got 263,000 miles, and I've got to do this thing. It's been on my agenda, and I haven't had time. I've been doing a whole bunch of projects. But as you can see, I go through every time I change the oil, every time I put tires on it, every time I do everything, I write it down. The last time I done anything was 261,000. I changed the oil, rotated the tires, replaced the exhaust with a Walker exhaust system from Napa. And now the next thing I'm going to be writing on here is timing belt replacement. So just want to share that little thing with y'all. If you buy an old car and you want to keep it for a really long time, get you a book like this. Dollar General, I got this. And write down all your maintenance. It's good to go back and see how many miles your brakes lasted, how many miles your tires lasted. You get it all recorded. It's nice. All right, guys. So the first thing that has to happen on this job, and I'm going to do this the quickest, easiest, fastest way possible. The radiator needs to come out. Now, if you have an automatic car, this is a manual transmission car. If you have an automatic car, there's one more step on top of things that this one doesn't have. On an automatic car, there's two hoses that run right down here beside this coolant jug. You have to pull those two hoses loose from the metal lines that come in on the frame rail for the automatic transmission cooler. On this car, I don't have to do that. So the only thing I have to do on this car, I have to go down here and unplug my electric fans. let me get y'all in here where you can see. I want to really show y'all how to do this job properly. So I have a fan connector down here. I'm going to reach down here. There's a little tab. You pull up on the tab and you unplug it. Now it's unplugged. I'm going to go over here. This one, the coolant jug is kind of in my way. So I'm going to go ahead and take the overflow jug for the coolant off the car. It's two 10mm bolts. Get y'all in where you can see. I'm going to use a 3/8 10mm swivel socket. I'm going to go ahead and take this off and get it out of my way. Just a cover for your AC belt. I'm going to pop these tins out and get this coolant jug out of the way. Once you get these two tins out of the top, they're all made just a little bit different, but they're all pretty much the same at the same time. It's got a little thing that orients to the radiator fan. Actually, it's the cooling fan. Yeah, it's the cooling fan. There's a little plastic thing sticking out with a hole in it. This just slides down into. Take these two 10mm bolts out and lay this thing over to the side. I like to put my bolts back where I find them so I know where they go. You don't have to do that. So the other fan connector for this car, and they're all different, a little bit different. Some of them have one fan connector for both fans. This one has two separate fan connectors. The other one is right there. So I'm going to go to the bottom and get it. I'm going to lay down under here. There's a little tab. See if you can see it. Here's the fan connector. There's a little tab. Right here, you pull up on this little tab, and then you pull the connector out. It's that simple. So show y'all again because I had it zoomed in too far. You pull this little tab right here up, slide your connector out. That's on a 2000 Impreza. Might be a little different on something newer. They're all pretty close to the same. You hungry? Okay, I'll go get you some food.
Why did you take your phone case off?
Because my microphone won't plug into my phone with my phone case on there. It's in my building. Why are you worried about it? Alright guys, I'm going to go in here and feed my little girl. She's hungry. I'll be back out here in just a minute. Alright guys, got the little girl some food. Got her some oatmeal. She's ready to go. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drain the antifreeze out. And I want to show you guys the quickest, easiest way to get this radiator and these fans out all together. Now, like I said before, on the automatic transmission, you're also going to have two hoses that are connected to the frame rail on two lines right over here. You're going to disconnect those and pull them off and let the excess automatic transmission fluid drain out. We don't have that on this car. It's a manual transmission. On this car, all I have to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the upper radiator hose and the lower radiator hose from the engine. I'm not going to disconnect them from the radiator. These radiators can get brittle. If you've got an old radiator, you start messing with this clamp, you may end up cracking this radiator and have to replace it. The best thing I've found to do is disconnect both hoses from the engine side, leave them connected to the radiator, leave the fans and everything on there. This whole unit will pick up out of here all in one piece. So I've got an, looks like a 5/16 screw clamp on my lower radiator hose. I'm going to get you guys underneath here where you can see what I'm doing. All right, I've got my coolant drain pan here. And I've got this thing double clamped. You can see the double clamps right there. So I'm going to get my 8mm. I'm going to unscrew both of these clamps. and get this coolant draining into this bucket. I know I said 8mm and then I said 5/16. That's two different sizes. I know for some people that doesn't make a lot of sense, but basically an 8mm and a 5/16 are exactly the same. I'm going to loosen these two clamps. Yours should probably just have one squeeze clamp. Most of them do. I had to double clamp mine for some reason. I don't know if it was leaking or what, but I've got double clamps on mine, so. Alright, I'm going to pull this hose off here. I'm going to let this antifreeze drain into this jug. I'm going to try to save it because it's good. Yeah, it's being a little bit of a pain in the ass. Why is it not coming off there? There we go. Alright. Got all my antifreeze draining out. And I would recommend, even if your radiator has a drain on it, I would not recommend using the radiator drain. Personally, I would recommend using the low radiator hose on any Subaru. It works better. It drains all the antifreeze out. It's easy to get to, and you're not taking a chance on breaking your radiator when you do this. So I'm going to let all of this drain out. While this is draining out, I'm going to go back up top. I'm going to unhook the upper radiator hose. Once it's completely drained out and there's nothing else dripping, I can slide this radiator out. I can't reach that, so I'm going to get an extension. Let's take this clamp all the way off. That's what it wanted to do. We'll do what it wants. Pull this hose off. All right, that sped up my draining process. Now, there's two mounts on almost every Subaru. Usually they're 12mm bolts, sometimes they're 10s. These two mounts, one's right here and one's right here. I got to take those bolts out. My 12mm, pop these out. Remember which way they're oriented. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you can do a puzzle, you can figure out how these go back if you get them mixed up. Basically, they only fit one way for the hood prop to lay in. All right, so I'm going to push this low radiator hose down, make sure all the antifreeze is out of this radiator, and I'm pretty sure it is. I'm going to go ahead and take this off and get it out of the way so the fans don't hit it when I'm pulling it out. Make sure you guys are in frame, you can see what I'm doing. This is a 12 right here. All right, got this out of my way. All right, now my upper radiator mounts that mount my radiator to my radiator support, they're loose. Both of my fan connectors are loose, and both of my radiator hoses are loose. So the next thing I'm going to do, there's a wiring harness in my way on my car that might keep me from doing it this way. So I may have to take the lower, I'm gonna have to take the lower radiator hose loose from the radiator on the bottom, because there's a wiring harness that goes over top of it. On some cars you don't have to do that. All right. So I just took my low radiator hose off the radiator. Now this thing is going to lift up out of here in one unit. Fans, hoses, everything. On most cars, you're not going to have to take the lower hose off. You're going to leave it on. When you take this thing out, Check your fans, make sure they're both turning, they're spinning freely, nothing's stopped, messed up on them. That'll cause your car to overheat. If there's anything wrong with your fans, replace them. As you can see, it's all in one unit. I didn't take my drain loose. I didn't touch anything. This one's got the automatic transmission cooler lines capped off because it doesn't have an automatic transmission. All I got to do when I'm done is just put this thing back in and bolt it back up. I'm going to set it over here to the side, keep it from getting damaged. Set it somewhere where it won't get damaged. Now, let me show you guys what I got. This bracket is in our way. This is the air conditioning belt bracket that tightens the AC belt. This bracket's got to come off. This is not in my way. Power steering. If it is in your way, I might just go ahead and show you guys how to take this off and just get it out of the way, because sometimes you're going to have to, and it's going to be easier for me to just show you how to do it, so you don't have to drain the power steering fluid out and all that. That's something you need to see. First thing I'm going to do now, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this bolt right here loose, loosen this up till the belt gets a little loose, and then take these two bolts right here out and take this bracket out of my way. I'm going to put my 12 on here. I'm going to break this loose. Break these two loose. I'm going to take and loosen this belt with this adjuster rod. Now, if your car's got a lot of rust, if you live up north, I kind of live in the rust belt, but mine's not rusted because I've worked on it so much. You want to spray something on these threads so you don't get nothing stuck. So that's good and loose. And I'm going to take these two bolts out that hold this bracket on. All right. Stick those two bolts back where they go so I don't lose them. Set this bracket and this pulley out of the way. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to loosen this 12 millimeter right here underneath this belt. It is the tensioner for the alternator. I'm going to loosen it up. And I'm going to take the tension off my alternator belt. Until I can get the belt off. That's all you need to do, be able to get the belt off. Okay, belt's off. Alternator belt's off. Now, because I want to show you guys how to do this, I'm going to go ahead and take this power steering pump off. I could do this timing belt job without having it off, but I want to show you guys how to get it off, because sometimes you're going to need to take it off on some vehicles. All right, I'm going to get my air box out of the way right here on the left. Just going to take it out of here, and the reason I'm taking this air box out of here, getting it out of my way, is because I'm going to take this power steering pump and I'm going to lay it over here with the line still attached. I'm not taking the lines loose. I'm not draining out any power steering fluid. You do not have to drain anything out of this car except antifreeze and oil if you're working on the engine. So I took the two bolts out that hold the power steering lines to the intake manifold. There are some 12 millimeters. That's a 10. There's some 12 millimeters that hold this power steering pump to the block and to the engine. There's two of them down here. They go straight in from the front. They're different lengths, so try to keep your eyes on them when you take them out so you can remember which one goes back where. There's also going to be one or two that go straight down from the top. This one just had the one. All right. So I'm going to finish taking this bolt out that goes into my alternator for the alternator adjustment. And now this is loose. There was one bolt that went down in the back behind it right here, and two 12s that went in the front on the bottom. Now watch. There's also an electrical connector right here that you have to unplug that goes to a power steering pressure switch. I'm just going to sit this over here. This is where a lot of people mess up working on Subarus. There is no reason to drain any power steering fluid out of this car. For anything, I don't care if you're taking the engine out, doing a head gasket, just take that, unbolt it, sit it over to the side, leave the lines hooked up. You never lose power steering fluid. And look how much room I have now to get to that timing cover. Because I'm doing this job to show you the best way to do things, I'm going to go ahead and take off my alternator and get it out of my way. I'm not going to take this off, AC compressor, but I'm also going to show you how to do the same thing on your AC compressor. Move it to the side so you don't have to drain your refrigerant out. It costs a lot of money to get somebody to charge your AC. You don't want to drain your refrigerant out unless you have to. So let me show you guys what I'm talking about. I'm going to put this alternator adjuster bolt back in here so I know where it goes when I'm done. Next thing I'm going to do is unhook my negative battery terminal. All right, I got the battery unhooked. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come here. It's a 12 millimeter. I'm going to pop the wire off the top of the alternator. Get it out of the way. Sometimes there's a washer. This one doesn't have one. I'm going to put my nut back on my alternator so I don't lose it. I personally have tons of nuts and bolts laying around from jobs that I've done. I've replaced engines and stuff, and I've had extra stuff. Most people don't. You really have to keep up with these bolts and nuts. If you lose them, and you don't have the kind of stuff I have and the availability to have this used bolts and nuts off Subarus laying around like a Subaru junkyard, it's going to be hard to find something like this. Something like this. Make sure you don't lose it. All right, let me get you guys in here a little closer on the zoom. There's a bracket right there. If you lose that bracket, it's going to be a little more difficult for you. Don't lose this bracket. Reach back here and grab it. It's designed a specific way to grab the side of the alternator. When you take the bolt out, when you put it back in, it grabs the alternator and it doesn't turn. You can tighten the alternator up. You got a 12 millimeter bolt that goes through here. I like to take this and put it back on the bolt like so I don't lose it. And we know that goes to the alternator. Now your alternator should just, let me zoom back out a little bit. Your alternator should just slide right out. Done. The alternator's out of the way. Okay. I personally don't feel like taking this off, but if you want to get this out of your way so you have more room to work and see, there's a 14 millimeter bolt there. There's one right there. It can be a little bit of a pain to get to with the intake on, but you can do it. As you can see, it's kind of behind the intake. You can do it. Once you get the alternator out of the way, you can use a wrench on this. There's one right here, or you can take these two out, but see, that's in your way. So the best thing to do is take this one out. You take this air compressor, AC compressor, you take some of this stuff off the top of it and get out of your way, and you pick this thing up and you move it over where your battery's at. You'll have to take your battery out, sit it over here. You take this out as well, sit it all over here. I'm not going to do that because I'm trying to get this done, and I don't have to do that on my particular vehicle. I can get by without doing it. All right, so now we are at the front timing belt cover. The only thing stopping us from getting the timing belt cover off are the bolts in the timing cover and this crank bolt. Sometimes these crank bolts can be a real pain in the butt, let me tell you. Let me see if it'll come off. It's a 22 millimeter. I've got a stubby impact gun. I'm going to go put some oil in my impact gun. I'm going to crank my air compressor up. I'm going to see if I can get that bolt out. If I can't, then I'll show you guys how to get it out with a breaker bar. I probably ought to show you guys how to get it off with a breaker bar anyway, because a lot of people don't have air compressors and they don't have impact guns and things like that. Let's see if it'll come loose with this. All right, it came off. Best case scenario for me. Just saves me time. If this is the first time you've ever taken the belt off and it's a factory tighten on your crank bolt, it's not going to come off with an impact. And I'm just going to go ahead and show you and tell you what you got to do, but I'm not going to do it because it came off. One of the good things about Subarus, guys, these pulleys will come off here without a puller. And that's why that crank bolt has to be so tight. These are not pressed to fit. They're not interference. And this one's being a little bit of a pain in the butt, but came off. Didn't have to have a puller. There's actually no provisions for a puller. So you better hope it's not stuck. It is keyed. It does have a keyway, but it's not pressed to fit. All right. In the instance that you don't have an impact gun, all you have is a breaker bar, and you got to break that bolt loose. Right here is a hole. Mine doesn't have a rubber piece over top of it. Most of them do. Let me show you where it's at again. Okay. Right there's the throttle body. Down below the throttle body, there's a hole in the back of the block. I need to get a flashlight. All right, guys, I got a flashlight. Right there's a hole. It's going to have a rubber plug over it. You can reach down in there with a long pair of needle nose or a screwdriver, and you can pop that rubber cover off. You can see the flywheels right there. If you don't have an impact, if your bolt won't come loose and you have to use a breaker bar, you're going to need a helper, and you're going to need to get in there. See those flywheel teeth? Right. My phone's hard to focus back in the hole. There's flywheel teeth right there. See them? Right there. Flywheel teeth. You're going to have to get some type of a pry bar down in there. And you have to get somebody to hold that pry bar. You don't want it slipping. It might mess your flywheel teeth up. You're going to have to hold that flywheel and keep it from turning. And then use your breaker bar on the front. And it may be very, very tight. You may have a hard time with it. You may have to use a breaker bar. And on top of that, you may have to use a pipe. Depends on what kind of breaker bar you have. I've had to go so far as using a 3/4 inch breaker bar with a huge pipe on it to break these things loose. That's going to be something you're going to have to figure out on your own. Don't give up. It will come loose. It's not even that big of a bolt. I mean, here's the bolt compared to my pinky. It's not even that big of a bolt, but it can be extremely tight, and I've seen them extremely tight. When I put them back on, I ram them down with that 1/2 inch impact until it stops. I don't know how many foot-pounds that is, but I don't give it no slack. I run it down until that thing stops. I would be guessing somewhere around 200 plus foot-pounds. All right. Now, I'm not going to get the camera down and show you every bolt, but there's a bunch of 10 millimeter bolts around this timing cover that have to come out. I'm going to get my 3/8 impact, my 10 millimeter socket. There's 3 bolts I'm gonna have to use my shallow socket because that deep socket's a little bit too long. There's 3 bolts on this driver's side cover. 3 total. And that's on almost every Subaru. I've never seen one with 4 unless it's possibly the dual overhead cam versions, which we're not talking about today. These bolts sometimes can be rusted. And when you go to take them out, it'll destroy the timing cover. You really want to try to prevent that. If your car is pretty rusty and you think they might not come out, before I put the impact on them, I would spray them really good with some PB Blaster. Once you get that, you just grab this cover and pull it, and it slides right out. It's keyed. It has grooves. When you put it back in, those grooves slide in the grooves on this other cover piece right here. When you put it back in, make sure it slides in properly. I'm going to take those 3 bolts and put them in there, and I'm going to lay this on the table. Now, you got quite a few bolts still left that have to come out. These are shouldered, except one of them. Maybe 2. The majority of these have shoulders. You can feel with your fingers if you don't want to get down and look. So far, every one of them has had a shoulder. I think this one right here doesn't have one. And that's because it goes into another piece of plastic. So there you go. I got to the one that doesn't have a shoulder. So all of them have shoulders except that one. You can feel, and you can keep feeling around the cover with your fingers, and you can feel if there's another bolt. So I think I've got them all out. I'm going to grab this cover and pop it right off. It slides right off. Now, if your cover, sometimes power steering fluid, different things will leak onto this rubber seal right here. It'll swell this seal up, and this seal like this right here. And this seal will be a pain in the butt to try to put back in. If that's the case, I've had to cut them before and cut some of the material out to get them to fit back on there. As long as it's mainly sealed around here, it's not a big deal. It's keeping out dust, rocks, debris, snow, etc. It's not going to keep out a little bit of water. That's fine. But it's going to keep out most of the debris, rocks, dust, mud, stuff like that from getting in your timing belt. So that covers off. I'm going to lay it to the side. Next step I'm going to do is I'm going to put this crank bolt back in here. I got to use that to turn the engine over. And I'm just going to put it in snug. All right, the next step I'm going to do, I'm going to put my car in neutral. And I'm going to chock the wheels. My e-brake works, but I'm still going to chock the wheels. Car has to be in neutral so you can turn the engine over. If it's a manual transmission. If it's an automatic, you don't have to worry about it. If it's a manual transmission, you got to put it in neutral. Now this is where it gets a little bit interesting, and I'm going to get you guys down here as close as I can so I can show you guys and explain to you what to do here with timing belts on Subarus. This car is a manual transmission. It has a bracket right here that's pretty close to this belt, not touching it, but very close. This bracket keeps this belt from jumping off the crank pulley on deceleration, or when the car's parked on a hill and it's trying to roll backwards. Sometimes these belts can slip because of the pressure against this, and there's only half the teeth on the pulleys actually grabbing the belt. If you have a manual transmission car, this needs to be on it. I'm going to get my 22 millimeter. I'm going to put it on a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. I'm going to turn this over, and what you're looking for on this, there's a mark. I've colored my marks yellow and white with a paint marker. I recommend you doing that, but you're not going to have that. So you're going to have to find there's a little indentation on one of these teeth. You're going to turn it around until you have an indentation here, here, and here. They're all going to be pointing directly straight up. There's also a mark, and I'm going to line this up and I'm going to show you guys so you'll know what I'm talking about. All right, I'm going to pull this phone out here and I'm going to show you close up what we got. All right, now I have painted my marks yellow because I've done this in the past and they're still yellow. There's a mark right here, right where I'm pointing to. Let me get my knife out so I can point a little closer. There's a mark right here. There's a mark here on the back of this pulley, and there's a mark right here on the front of this pulley. sprocket, whatever you want to call it. Those three need to be lined up. On your right side cam or passenger side cam, there's a line right here where this cylinder head cap bolt that holds the cam cap bolts to the head. That line needs to be lined up with that mark. On this side, it's a little different. Your timing cover has a little indention in it. There's also a little indention in this pulley. Those two need to be lined up. Now, there's something you need to know. On almost every car that you time, you're timing them at cylinder 1, top dead center. That is not the case on the Subaru. Let me repeat. This is not top dead center, cylinder 1. That is not how the timing on the Subaru works. Period. When you have this timing mark lined up and these timing marks lined up, all these timing marks are lined up. All 4 pistons on this Subaru are at the same height, and they're about this far down in the cylinder. They're way far away from the valves. There's no way they can hit the valves as long as you don't turn this over. Once you get this timing mark lined up, when you take these pulleys off and you take this belt off, this does not turn very much. You can turn it a little bit. You don't want to turn it all the way over. That's how you bend a valve. I'm going to repeat what I said one more time so you guys understand. This is not cylinder 1 top dead center compression like most cars. This is a timing mark that Subaru set up so you can time this engine properly. It is not cylinder 1 top dead center. All 4 pistons are down about this far in the cylinder, way far away from the valves. When you take this belt off, you can spin both of these pulleys 150 times and you're not going to bend a valve as long as this stays right here. Okay, the next step is we're going to open up our timing belt kit and look in there, and I'm going to show it to you. So this tells you all the year models that this timing belt kit works for. Anything single overhead cam from 1999 all the way to 2012. This is the same timing belt kit. This is a nice set. AC Delco, baby. Good parts. GM parts, but good parts. You got your tensioner. It's got an O-ring that holds this washer on so it doesn't fall off. The washer has to be on there when you put your tensioner on. You got a couple idler pulleys. Gates pulleys and an AC Delco kit. That's kind of wild. Shoot, it's a Gates belt. I got screwed. Of course, the Gates, I think, was more money. But anyway, this looks like a Gates timing belt kit that AC Delco put their name on. Kind of pisses me off a little bit, just to be honest with you. I thought I was getting AC Delco parts. Well, I put Gates on them before, and Gates has always been a good pulley system and a good belt system, so I can live with that. Gates. We're all learning something today. If you buy AC Delco timing belt kits, it's going to be Gates. Gates belt, Gates pulleys, Gates everything. All right. So we have all of our pulleys, timing belt, a sticker, and some Loctite. And then we got this gauge, and this is what you set your clearance on that bracket with for the crank pulley. Pretty nice looking set, but it's Gates. If I hadn't known that, I would have just bought Gates. Anyway, got that open. Let's open our water pump up. Make sure this is the right one because I ordered one for my car and my wife's car, and they're a little different. Japanese, baby. Got a gasket, a thermostat seal, and a little piece of rubber that goes in there. And I think this one is for my wife's car. It is. Okay. Got to grab the other timing belt kit, or the other water pump kit. This is for my wife's 2009 Outback. The difference is the thermostat on her car comes out the front, and the thermostat on my car comes out the bottom. So put this back in here and get the other water pump. Number next. All right. So as you can see, this water pump, the thermostat comes out the bottom instead of the front. So that's going to fit mine. Has the same stuff in it. Gasket. That's a metal gasket with a crush system in it. Okay, so we know our parts are right. We have got everything down to the timing belt itself. So now, in order for me to put the water pump on here, I have to get the timing belt off. And I'm going to show you what steps and what order I use to get that off. I'm going to take this bottom tensioner pulley off first, idler pulley. It's also going to be the last piece that I put on the car when I'm done. I'm going to sit this over here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one off that has cogs on it that goes next to the water pump. Now your belt is loose. So let's go ahead and slide the belt off. And like I said, guys, if these flip around, it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt nothing, because all your pistons are down in this scenario, the way Subaru's got this set up. I'm going to take these two bolts out for this little bracket, and I'm going to lay this bracket right here, and I'm going to put these bolts right here because I'm going to need them back here in a minute. All right, my belt's off. Actually, the belt looks really good, but I'm not willing to take a chance on this belt breaking and bending my valves in my car. It's a Napa 250304. That's what I had on the car. Now I'm going to take my tensioner off and my other idler pulley. I'm going to lay this up here. I'm going to take my tensioner off. All right. All my pulleys, my tensioner, everything's off. Now I can see my water pump. A while back, I got an engine, a 2.5 Subaru single overhead cam, off a friend of mine that took it out of his car, and it had this oil cooler set up on it. Well, I wanted that for my car, so I went ahead and outfitted my car with an oil cooler. I don't know how much difference it makes. I don't know if it matters, but my car now has an oil cooler. The only difference is the thermostat housing has an exit on it right here, where my factory thermostat housing did not have this exit nipple. It goes through this hose into this cooler, and then I'll get under the car and show you the other thing that I had to do. I had to install this piece that goes where the oil filter screws in. And then there was one other thing that I had to do right here in the block. And on my 2000 model 2.2, it didn't have a nipple right there. It just had a plug. I had to pull that plug out and pull the nipple out of the other engine that I got off my friend. And I had to install the nipple in my block and then just hook everything up. And now my car has an oil cooler. There's a lot of stuff on this car that's not factory because I've either upgraded it, changed it, used something off of another year model. But I know everything that's on it, and that's why I'm not selling it. I'm keeping it. Because if I sold it to somebody else, they'd have hell trying to find parts. Anyway, also, just while I'm under here, 2000 2.2 Imprezas had a single exhaust exit. I don't know if you can tell, that's a dual exhaust exit. So it has a set of 2002 2.5 heads on it. And it runs better with the dual exhaust exit 2.5 heads. A lot better. A lot more power at between 3,000 and 6,000 RPMs than it had factory. All right. So I got to get this water pump off. Okay, in order to get this water pump off, I need to pull the thermostat housing off. I need to pull a hose off right here. So I'm pull the thermostat housing off. I'm going to take this hose off. And then there's a bunch of bolts that are 10 millimeters and your water pump comes off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. 10 millimeter bolt to take the thermostat housing off. And there's two of them. I'm just going to let that hang down in my drain pan for now. All right, and I've got a screw clamp on that other little hose. And it's going to be a 1/4 inch clamp, which I don't think I have out here. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to get my little 1/4 inch drive set out. Find my 1/4 inch socket. And I'm going to loosen this clamp right here up. Okay. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Yeah. I'm going to take a pair of Nipex channel locks and I'm going to spin this hose on this nipple. Once I get it to spin, you got to be careful and not damage the hose. These are pre-molded hoses and they're hard. You can't just make one out of anything. I'm going to use my 45-degree pliers and I'm going to get in behind it and pry it off of the nipple. Okay, that's off. Now, all I should have to do is pull out the 10 millimeter bolts that are holding this water pump to the block and slide the water pump out. I'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 bolts. 10 millimeter. They're all the same length. Dropped one of them in my drain pan. You'll have that. Alright. Now this water pump should come on out. Let's see if I can get this one out of my drain pan. If I can see it. I think all the antifreeze, well, there might be some more that comes out. I'll get that bolt before I put my new water pump back on. Alright, so the water pump feels like it's in there pretty tight. So I'm going to get a pry bar and I'm going to pry on it just a little bit. See if I can find a decent place to put a little pry action on without breaking anything. Alright, so I just pried between a bolt that holds the block together and my water pump. Gave it a little pry and it popped loose. Slid right out. There's the water pump. Feels really good. It's made in Japan. I don't remember what this water pump came off of. I'm not sure. But the next thing I'm going to do is compare this water pump to my new one and make sure it's the same. And it looks to be identically the same. So that's good. That's what you want. Because I used a paper gasket the last time I done this job and not a metal gasket, I've got some gasket material on my block that has to be cleaned off. Let me get this camera down here at a little bit different angle. Maybe you guys can see it a little better. So I'm going to be cleaning that gasket material off of this water pump surface where the water pump bolts to the block. I'm going to be using a snap-on 14-volt cordless drill with a wire cut brush attached to it. And I'm just going to be kind of easy with it. I'm not trying to take any metal off, just the gasket material. And this is aluminum, so you can damage it. If you put too much pressure or too much speed, it can get damaged. You want to get all of that gasket material off. And you want to clean out these coolant passages when you're done. You don't want none of that stuff in your block. Carburetor cleaner top spray. Spray on here. Maybe help loosen some of that up. And I'm going to go back at it with my wire brush some more. And I dropped my cut brush in my antifreeze. It's alright. If stuff falls in the antifreeze, it's fine. I'm going to run that antifreeze through a filter before I reuse it. I'm going to put it through a paint filter, catch any kind of debris or anything that's in that antifreeze that's not supposed to be there. A lot of that gasket material came off, but not all of it. I'm going to get a razor blade scraper. I'm going to try to scrape the rest of that off real gently. Actually, I'm just going to use a brand new razor blade in my hands. And I'm going to make sure I don't gouge the surface of the aluminum. While I'm scraping it off. This is a little bit tedious. Sometimes this takes a little bit of time. Just take your time with it. Make sure you don't gouge the edge of the razor blade down into your surface. You can also pull the razor blade backwards across it, which is what I was taught when I went to automotive class and stuff. And it works, but it doesn't always get everything off. Sometimes you got to go forward with it. The goal is to get this surface clean and dry before you put your new water pump and your new water pump gasket on. You don't want anything on this surface. You want it clean, dry, and flat. If you can't see it, you may have to get an inspection mirror or something, or you can lay on the ground and look up at it. But like, I can't see right here, but I can also feel, and I can feel that I've got some stuff still on there, so I can just use just my feeling in my fingertips, rub it, and I can feel if it has anything on it or if it's just flat aluminum. You want it to just be flat, clean, dry aluminum. You can also, 99.9% of people nowadays have a smartphone. I would say out of those 99.9% of people that have a smartphone, 30% are smart enough to use it. So that being said, if you have a smartphone, and this goes for anything you're doing on an automotive repair project, if you can't see in a hole to see what's going on, turn your camera on your smartphone on and use it. Use your camera on your smartphone accordingly. Go in there, use your camera to see what's going on. Take a short video, watch it back, then you can see it. Or you can just use it like a mirror. So if you got your camera turned on, like me right now, now I can see the little piece of black fabric. So I can see that now. I couldn't see it before. So I'm going to hold my phone. I'm going to get up in here and I can watch what I'm doing. Now that piece is gone. There's one more little piece right there that I couldn't see. I'm going to try to use my phone for a mirror. Use my camera. So I'm watching my camera, my screen on my phone, while I'm doing this. Worked perfect. Just some advice from a 20-year automotive tech on how to do some things to help you out with equipment you have without going and buying extra equipment. Your smartphone camera is worth a lot of money when it comes to using it for repairs. And guys, if you don't have a drill with a cup wire brush attachment on it, you can spray some of this carburetor cleaner or parts cleaner, and you can take a regular wire brush to it, and it's going to take you a little longer, but you can get all that gasket material off with a regular wire brush. You can get these at Harbor Freight for next to nothing. They're cheap, and you can wear them out and throw them away and go get you some more. But you can see it's working. I mean, I've already got the majority of it off with the razor blade and with my cup brush, but this will work. It's going to take you longer, but it'll work. You can get in here and scrub all around on this surface with this wire brush. And you can get that clean. And I'm going to spray it one more time with this and get everything off of it. And I'm going to get my air hose and I'm going to spray one more time with my air hose. I'm going to get all these holes cleaned out. Make sure there's nothing in the holes where the bolts go. Alright, my water pump mounting surface is very clean. Now I'm going to get a clean rag, and I'm going to wipe it and make sure it's dry. Guys, you can get these microfiber towels in rolls at Walmart for really cheap. And they're awesome towels. I really like them. I use them for all kinds of stuff. Detailing cars, cleaning surfaces. These are awesome towels for the price. I think they come in 75 or 100 towel rolls for 30 bucks or something. I highly recommend it. All right, so that's clean and dry. There's nothing on the surface to interfere with the gasket mating to the surface. I'm going to get my gasket out. Make sure you don't bend or kink this gasket. I'm going to get my water pump. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to make sure this surface is nice and clean and flat, and it is. I'm going to get this oriented to the right place where it fits on here perfectly. Okay, so that's where it goes. Now, before you put this water pump on, there's this little rubber seal right here. This little rubber seal goes here. I don't know what it's for. I don't know why it's there, but it's there, and I always put it back. I think it keeps, it's just like the seal on your timing cover. It keeps gunk from getting up in here. Seals up to the edge of the block like this. All right, so my gasket's oriented correctly. I've got my rubber piece in. I'm not worried about my thermostat right now. I can put that in later. The next thing I'm going to do, I need to make sure my bolts are clean and the threads are clean. And they look pretty good. There's not anything in there that, there's a little bit of RTV from my last repair, but there's not anything in there that's going to stop it from tightening down. I'm going to put 2 of these in. And these 2 bolts are going to keep my gasket where it needs to be. And then I'm going to sit this on the block very carefully as to not mess up my gasket. Very gently. And you got to make sure this gasket doesn't fall and become disoriented as you're putting this thing on. But I'm going to slide this thing in here. As soon as I get close enough for my bolts to start, I'm going to try to start these bolts by hand and get them going into the threads. These 2 bolts that I've got in here orienting my gasket correctly. If I can get those 2 bolts started by hand, a couple of threads, I'm going to run them in just a little bit. Not all the way down. All right, now, my water pump is sitting in place. I've got 2 bolts in the holes holding the gasket from moving. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get up underneath the car and I'm going to verify that my gasket has not fell down. I can see it up here. It's in there. It's in the right spot. But I'm going to look on the bottom too. And I'm going to make sure 100% that my gasket has not moved. If you're using a paper gasket, you can damage your gasket if it moves. So we're going to get up under here and look. And I can see that that gasket is in there and it's where it's supposed to be at. So we're good. So now all I got to do is get the rest of those bolts put in and get them torqued down. Get this bolt that I dropped in my antifreeze jug out. All right, guys, if my audio changed, I apologize. I just broke the microphone that my wife got me for Christmas that I was using on my iPhone to do this recording with. So I guess I'm going to have to buy another microphone. I like that microphone because it stays the same distance away from my mouth and the audio should be fairly good with it. But I broke it. I dropped my phone on the ground and it hit and it broke it. So that's just how things go sometimes, I guess. All right, I've got these bolts started back in here. I don't know the torque spec. I've done this 1,000 times, but I can't remember the torque spec. So what I normally do is I run them in until they touch with this. And I don't tighten them down with the impact. I just run them in until they touch. I'm just barely pulling the trigger. Now what I normally do, these bolts don't have to be super tight. So I take my 1/4 inch drive ratchet, small 1/4 inch drive ratchet, and I take a socket, 10mm socket, and an extension, short extension. I put all this together and I snug these up. I get them fairly tight, cross pattern with this 1/4 inch ratchet, and that's tight enough. They don't have to be tightened down with a 3/8 ratchet, incredibly tight. They just got to be snugged up good. I'd say 10 to 12 foot-pounds, if I had to guess. These gaskets, these water pump gaskets, are not prone to leaking or anything like that. Shouldn't have any problems with leaks, water pump leaks. Just get them good and snug, not tight enough to strip the threads out of the aluminum block or break the bolts off, but good and tight. If you've been doing any type of automotive work in the past, you know about how tight these need to be just by the feel. If you've never done automotive work, look the torque spec up, use a torque wrench on it. All right, my new water pump's put on. I'm gonna put this hose back on here. I don't think you guys can see that down there. I'm gonna put this hose back on. I'm gonna get my 1/4 inch socket back out. Tighten that hose clamp back down. Alright, that's good and tight. Hose is on there, it ain't coming off. Alright, next thing I need to do is clean up this water pump housing, or thermostat housing. Get this good and clean. Then I'm gonna put my new thermostat in and bolt it up. So I'm gonna use the same methods that I used on that block. I'm gonna use a little bit of this parts cleaner and a wire brush. And this has RTV on it, and I think that's because whenever I put this together last time, when I put this oil cooler on, I think I didn't have a new thermostat gasket, and I was in a hurry that night to get it done. So I think I just used RTV on it. And I always use AC Delco GM Gray RTV. I worked in a GM dealership for years, and that stuff is like glue. It's good stuff. A lot of people like Honda Bond and different things. I like the AC Delco stuff. It's expensive, but it works. You reseal an oil pan or something with it, or anything, coolant, and it won't leak. All right, got all this junk off. I spray it again with my cleaner. Get all this crap out of it. All right, it's clean, it's dry. I got this new water pump. It's I keep saying water pump. I got this new thermostat. It's an Aisin thermostat. This thermostat goes up inside this water pump, like so. And then this thermostat housing goes up on top of it, and 2 bolts go in the bottom. So I'm gonna leave the phone sitting here. I'm gonna go underneath the car and do that. All right, same thing on this thermostat housing to water pump bolt down. I'm just gonna run these bolts up until they're snug, and then I'm gonna put just enough on them where I know they're not gonna come loose, but not so much pressure that it can strip threads or break the bolt. All right, that's installed. Shouldn't have any leaks. This is where this timing belt job can get complicated for some people, and they don't like doing this kind of stuff. And I understand that. I get that. Because when you're doing a timing belt on a car, a lot of bad things can happen if you don't get it right. So I get people's hesitation to get into stuff like this, but I'm going to make this so super easy that you guys should be able to do this on your own if you decide to. All right. When I took these other pulleys off, I left the bolts in them that were in them. So I'm going to grab the pulley that I need, compare it to the one I got, which is the same. Take the bolt out of the old one, put it in the new one, and put it in place. Then I'm going to take my impact gun. These are 14 millimeter, and I'm going to run it down till it stops, but I'm not going to hammer it with my impact. This pulley here with the lip on the back of it is going to be the last thing you put on. But these other ones that don't have a lip and the cog one, you can go ahead and put those on the car. Now, your tensioner will be the next to last thing you put on, but this, and if you notice, I don't know if you noticed, but that other bolt that I had was shorter than this one. So you don't want to mix your bolts up. I mean, it was longer. The bolt for this down here was longer than it is for this one. The smooth pulley that doesn't have the lip on it like this goes here beside the crank. I ran it down until it stopped. Okay. Now, I have not put this pulley on. You don't want to put this on until the very last. It goes here. You don't need to put that on until the last, because where it's on the bottom and it just barely interferes with that belt, it's easy to slide the belt up and get the bolt in this. So you want to have this laying here and ready, but you don't need to put it on yet. All right, I'm going to get my tensioner. I'm going to lay my tensioner out here. I'm going to get it ready. It's got to go on to get this belt in the right place. Now, a new belt should have 3 marks on it. These 3 marks. There's one here. Can y'all see that? One here, one in the middle, and one here. The way the belt goes is to where you can read the writing. You want to be able to read the writing. The center mark goes on your crank, and it's got its dotted lines. The other 2 are solid lines. So you want to start out by laying this belt on this crank and getting it lined up with that center mark. Now, on a manual transmission car, just to make things a little easier, I like going ahead and putting this bracket on here, because it will hold the belt and keep it from coming loose from the crank. It'll keep it oriented on the crank. So I'm going to go ahead and put these bolts in here and snug these bolts down. Not tight, because I've got to come back in and adjust that gap. But I just want it snug down where that belt cannot slip. Okay, so I've got, let me get y'all down here where you can see. I've got my belt started on my crank. This is lined up with this, and the belt line is lined up, the center line on the belt is lined up with the dots. So everything's lined up straight down the middle. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take this belt, put it on here, and that line needs to be lined up with this and this center line between the head and the cam cap. Come on around with your belt. Keep tension held on it as you're coming around. This pulley here has cogs, but it doesn't matter. So you're gonna just keep tension on your belt. Keep holding tension that way. Pull this way on it, like this. You're gonna go around here, and you want all the tension you can get as you come around this pulley. See, if you don't, that's not gonna line up. There's two ways to handle this. You can either turn the crank counterclockwise a little bit, or you can put a 17 millimeter on this and turn it to where this lines up with this line. Watch what happens if I let go of this belt. This is the only thing you're gonna have to fight a little bit. It's not a big deal. Let me show you how to handle it. Since these are already lined up and they're perfect, I'm not gonna move anything there. Now, this side over here, when you've got everything timed, this side over here is going to be on a spring tension. If you move it either direction, it's going to try to pop loose on you. So what you want to do, you want to take a 17 millimeter socket. I'm going to get a shallow socket. And a breaker bar, 3/8 drive breaker bar, not a ratchet, a breaker bar. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull tension back on this again, and I'm going to just move this over right where I know it's going to line up. And I'm going to hold tension on this belt as I push it around. Now it's lined up. Now I'm going to take this while it's lined up, and I'm going to pull tension back on this way, counterclockwise, to tighten this belt up and make sure it's good and tight. Now, I'm going to hold this right here. If you had a pair of vice grips, you could gently squeeze here and hold this on here to help you, so you don't have to hold it with your hand while you're doing this next step. I don't have that laying here, and I can't let this go, because if I do, it's going to come loose. So what I'm going to do, while I'm standing here holding this, I've got my tensioner and as an assembly. The tensioner sits in here like this. And there's some threads back in here that this bolt goes in for your tensioner. Okay, now my tensioner is holding this belt where it won't come off of this pulley. I'm holding down on it with my tensioner. Now, my goal is to get this tensioner bolt started into the block. And the way you can do this, if your bolt won't go, pull some tension on this cam sprocket right here while you're pushing down here, and try to get that thing to line up. You don't want to cross thread this bolt in this hole. It can cause you major problems. You don't want that. If you can get these threads to start in this tensioner, that's what your goal is. And it may not be very easy to do. So it's not starting. So this is the part where a lot of people are scared to do this, and it's kind of difficult, but it's not that difficult. So what I'm going to do now, I'm gonna go get a clamp to put on that to make sure that belt doesn't slide off of that pulley. This is just a squeeze clamp. I'm gonna put it on there. Now, that should hold that belt from sliding off. It's lined up. I don't want it to move. I'm gonna take my tensioner back out. My O-ring that comes on this to hold this washer in place has fell off. So now I gotta make sure this washer don't come off because it's gotta be in there. Now, this pulley is not there. This pulley is not there. This belt is being held on here by this bracket. It can't slide off the crank. This is lined up. All my tension's out of here. This is lined up. And I'm having a hard time getting this tensioner to go. So what I have to do, actually I think I found the O-ring. I think it was in the hole. I'm gonna put it back on. This just helps. There's actually a little indention right here in this bracket that this O-ring can sit down inside of. It's made to have that O-ring on it. All right, I'm gonna sit this tensioner in here and I'm gonna try to get that bolt to start. In those threads. You don't want it cross-threaded. Whatever you do, don't cross-thread it. All right, I think I might have got it started. I'm gonna put a regular ratchet on it in a socket. And I'm gonna try to see if it's started or if it's, okay, it is, it's started. Now, right here, see if you guys can see it. I'll let you down just a little bit, get you in here. Okay, there's a metal pin drove into this little piece that's bolted to the block. There's a metal pin right here. It sits against this other metal pin on this tensioner. As you can see, it's not underneath there. It needs to be. So now, I'm gonna find that pry bar that I had. This bolt started in the threads. I'm gonna go under here. I'm gonna pry down on this, not on the pulley surface, on this aluminum. And I'm gonna try to get that to go in underneath. Okay, and it's going. So now, if you can see, this tensioner pin is sitting on this other metal pin. Now I'm gonna keep tightening this bolt down. All right, it's good and tight. Now this belt, hold on. This belt is not centered on that pulley, but when I start turning this engine over, it will center itself up. As long as it's not rubbing anything, you're good. So I've got my tensioner sitting in here with the metal pin and the tensioner sitting on the little metal pin that's drove into this aluminum. Got this tight. I'm gonna take my stuff off. Now that belt's on there and it's on there right, it's timed. And we're gonna double check that. But I'm gonna show you. Now I'm missing one idler pulley. It's not on there. That's okay. So my marks are lined up on the passenger side cam. My marks are lined up on my crankshaft. And my marks are lined up on my driver's side cam. Now I'm going to take this pulley, this one I told you should be last, should leave till last. And I'm gonna put it in here like so, and I'm gonna pull up on this belt. And then I'm gonna start it. And it's not real hard to do. If it's real hard to do, then you probably got a problem. I mean, you got to put some torque on it. It's not the, easiest thing you've ever done. You got to put a little torque on it. But you should be able to pull up on this. And you need to be able to see. It's kind of hard because I'm working around my camera too. I'm not trying not to knock my camera over. But you should be able to see the little stud that comes off that the bolt goes into, aluminum boss, and just hold up on that and get it started. Once you get it started good, and you know you're in there quite a few threads, so it's not going to cross thread, you can run it on in. Like that. Okay, now if you remember, I did not tighten up all these bolts on all these pulleys. I just ran them in, snugged them down. So I'm going to take my 3/8 breaker bar and I'm going to go around. There's a torque spec on these. If you're doing this at home and you've never done this before and you think you need to torque it, then get your torque spec out and torque it. I've done this quite a bit. I know just about how tight they need to be just by feel. So I'm going to do it by feel. If you guys are doing it and you don't feel comfortable with that, get the torque specs and do it by torque spec. So there's 4 bolts that need to be tightened. 3 idler pulleys and a tensioner bolt. Now the next thing I'm going to do, these timing belt kits on a manual transmission car, they come with this little red thing. What this is for, you loosen this up and you slide this in here, and that sets your distance that this bracket is supposed to be away from your timing belt. Just push down this bracket and tighten these bolts down. And then this will slide out, but it's going to be pretty tight if you held down tight on it. So plop that out. Now this is not touching the belt, but it's exactly the right distance away from the belt to keep it from popping off. Now the last step to do before you say you're done is the engine needs to be turned over 2 rotations, 2 full rotations. And then you check your marks again. So you're going to do that by hand because you don't want to use your starter, because if something is wrong or you don't have the timing marks lined up, if you go real slow, and if you notice I haven't taken my tensioner pin out yet. Tensioner pin is still in the car. It's still in the tensioner. It doesn't need that tensioner to be tightened. It doesn't need to be come out before you do this. So I'm going clockwise. There's 1 rotation. And if you notice, both cams are pointed straight down now. That's why you gotta go 2 rotations. Now when you come back around, your belt marks are not gonna be lined up anymore, but your timing marks will. So you come around and you line up your first timing mark on your crank. Get you in here close where you can see. And you verify This mark is lined up with this mark right here. This mark. And you notice this is not in the right place anymore. You don't look at that anymore. This one's lined up. Come over here. Get straight on with it. This one and this one's lined up. Same thing here. Get straight on it. This one and this gap right here between your cam cap and your cylinder head is lined up. So the engine is timed. Now you come in here, you pull your timing belt tensioner pin out. You're good to go. Your timing belt is installed. New water pump, new timing belt, ready to go. Now, just for the sake of this video, I'm going to put this reinstallation on a time lapse. I've already showed you how to take everything apart. All you have to do is reverse the order of removal for the installation. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to time lapse that, and I'll be back whenever we get ready to start the thing up. So in the middle of putting this thing back together, these threads right here stripped out on me. Car's 26 years old. Things are bound to happen. So I'm gonna drill that out. I'm gonna put a helicoil in it. Got this from AutoZone. Only place in town that had it was AutoZone. Tell you, I like O'Reilly Auto, but there's been quite a few times recently that I have went to O'Reilly's and they didn't have something, and my local AutoZone had what they didn't have. Take that as you will. I like O'Reilly's parts, but lately, just lately, I've been finding a lot of stuff that was not in stock at O'Reilly's. AutoZone had it on the shelf. Nicer stuff too. AutoZone in my town has got their A game going. They've got a lot of stuff. They got a lot of inventory, and they're gonna take care of you when you come in there. So I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but I might start. AutoZone's a little farther away for me. That's why I go to O'Reilly's first. But I may start going to AutoZone first. So on this pack, it says drill size 21/64. So I'm going to go in here and see if I can find a 21/64 drill bit. All right, I've got my 21/64 drill bit. I'm going to drill this out. We're going to tap it. Well, I said I was going to drill it out, but I can't get it in there. So now what? I don't have an angle drill that's super shallow. What can I do to drill that out? I don't have any shorter drill bits. I'm not taking my AC condenser out. What do I need to do? I got an air drill. It's only slightly shorter, but we'll see if that'll get in there. I don't think it will. Nope. Still just a little bit too long. So the only options I have is to either cut the drill bit off, make it shorter, or find an angle drill, which I don't have. So I gotta figure something out. All right, guys, I opted to cut about 1 inch off my drill bit. See if this gives me enough room to get in here and drill it. Oh yeah. That should be enough. Lay those shavings off with an air hose. Alright. We've got a snap-on tap and die set. I'm going here and get a tap wrench for that. Alright. I got my tap wrench. I'm gonna tap this hole for this helicoil. The other option that I had, if I hadn't wanted to repair it and use the same size bolt, is I could have just tapped it out to the next biggest bolt, drilled this out for the bolt to fit, and just put it back in with a bigger bolt. But I opted to put a helicoil in it and fix it somewhat right, put it back to the same thread size. Alright, got that tapped for the helicoil, proper helicoil size. Blow the threads out. Alright, now I got this helicoil driver tool. Can you see that? Sorry. It's supposed to go in there and run this helicoil in. I assume it just sits in here like that to drive it in. So I'm gonna get some thread locker to put on these threads, and then I'm gonna run this thing in there. Got some red thread locker. I'm gonna put a little bit of it on these threads, a little bit of it inside the hole on these threads. This should never come back out, so I don't care how much red's on it. All right, let's put this in here. That's pretty nice. It's going right in. I'm just going to get it even flush with the outside. I'm going to go just a little bit more. All right. Now, I'm going to go back on time lapse to try to get this thing back together. Alright guys, my phone decided it wanted to fight me and die right in the middle of the video. So then I tried to charge it with a power supply. I didn't like the power supply. So then I had to hook my battery back up on my car and charge it with a car charger. It's charging now. I don't know if it's going to die or not. But I've got everything back together. It took me about 30 minutes. So put everything back after I fixed that bolt that y'all seen that was stripped out. Everything's bolted back up. My belts are tight. You want them belts to be pretty tight. If you don't get them tight enough, they'll squeal. You'll have to tighten them some more. You'll know. Hook my battery back to my alternator. Plug my alternator back in. Okay, now get all this stuff off my car, and a bunch of crap fell into the antifreeze jug that I was using for the drain pan. I had already cleaned all the oil out of it. If you use a paint filter with one of these micron screens, that filters it out really good. It catches all that crap. Put it in a funnel. Pour it right through that paint filter. You can reuse your antifreeze. If your antifreeze ain't very old, there's nothing wrong with reusing it. Make sure you don't pour that trash in your radiator. So I'm going to fire this thing up, see if I can get some of this antifreeze to suck down in here. Let it cool down and top it off one more time. But job's done. Was it too bad? Probably could have done it. If that bolt hadn't have broken, I didn't have to go to town. Probably could have done it in 3.5, 4.5 hours. And that's not being in a rush, using my phone to record the footage. If I really wanted to go fast, I probably could do it in 3 hours. But there ain't no reason to go fast if you got time to just chill and just take your time and not get in a hurry. the faster you go, the more likely you are to forget something, not get the car right. But the next step I need to do is go drive this thing, and that's what I'm getting ready to do right now. Here we go. Alright guys, the last step I need to do is write down the miles, today's date, and when I changed the timing belt. Alright, so I changed the timing belt at 263,500. Next replacement, 363,000. 100,000 miles. Timing belt installed by Subi Man. Today's date, I don't even know today's date. Hang on. Today is the 30th. Oh God. So 4/30/26 is when I changed it. I'm gonna take this sticker. I'm gonna stick it in my book. So now I've got a record of it in my book. This book is really cool. It's got everything that I've done. Like, I'll give you an example. In June of last year, at 252,000 miles, I put cylinder heads off a 2002 with dual exhaust ports, new head gaskets, intake and exhaust gaskets. I added an oil cooler from the 2002 Impreza, changed the oil and filter, added new antifreeze, changed the water pump to a 2002 Impreza water pump. So that water pump was off the 02 Impreza, same as the cooler came off of. It's the same as a 2000 Impreza, so I don't know why I changed it. I put on here then that it still needed a new timing belt and pulley set. That was a year ago. Also, I changed the exhaust manifold due to the dual exit exhaust style heads. So that was in June of 2005 at 252,000. I've put 10,000 miles on it since then. But it just keeps going. I put 4 new tires from Tire Rack, General Ultimax 365 all weathers, $549.52. There's my order number, my customer number. I put a new passenger wiper blade on it, changed the oil with 5W30 Castrol and a Napa filter. New Virginia State inspection, completed an alignment. This was in 2024. Put a new battery in it from Drive Safe Automotive in Whitfield. 5-year prorated warranty, 2-year free replacement, $195.59. All this information is in here. If the battery goes bad, I can go back in here and look, and I'll know where I got it and what kind of warranty it has on it. Whatever car you have, if it's a car you're planning on taking good care of and keeping, I recommend getting you a little book, any kind of book, something that'll fit in the glove box. Put you a pen in there so you can keep up with your maintenance on your car. I mean, everything I've ever done to this car is in this book. If somebody buys this car, they can go back in here and they can read. I'll give it to them. Everything I've ever done to this car is in here. I love this. Guys, thanks for tuning in to the Hillbilly Builds YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out my other channel, Hillbilly Hard, I've got a bunch of videos and content on there. Got some of the content from this car on there. I decided to move all my automotive content to a different channel because I think it'll do better on its own channel with a focused thing for automotive mechanical content. I don't think the algorithm liked it whenever I was using my guns, hunting, fishing channel with automotive content. You can't mix a whole bunch of stuff together on YouTube. The algorithm don't like it. I'm trying to build something here on this channel, trying to build something new. Hit that like button, subscribe. There's going to be more content. There's going to be content on this Firebird, I'm going to keep working on my 88 Cherokee LS swap. Looking forward to getting back into that. I've had a whole bunch of stuff going on. I haven't had time to get it back out here in the driveway and get to work on it. As soon as I get a chance, I'm going to get that pulled back over here. I'm going to start working on it again. There's a whole lot of stuff I got going on. I just bought a 1980 Yamaha TT250 dirt bike. It's sitting in my building. The next video that comes out on this series, on this channel, should be on that Yamaha TT250. We'll see how that works out. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming here and watching this channel. Hit that like button and subscribe. It's going to help me out a lot to get this content pushed out to more people. Start making money on here. My ultimate goal is to build me a garage over here to the left. I need to have somebody come in and do grade work, put a concrete floor, and put a metal garage in over here with a lift. If I can get to that point, I can really make some high quality content, build some cool stuff. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you next time on Hillbilly Builds.